tax the rich is one of the biggest rhetorics, at least in the US right now. It's a very political statement at the moment where, and this going back to philosophy as well, I think John Rawls used to believe that if you make it up in society, then you've never made it on your own. Every individual has made it through the support of society. You've relied on public institutions like school, universities, firefighters, hospitals. So you owe society something. And as a result, your income should actually be channeled back towards society because they are the reasons you've reached there. So do I actually own all the assets that I actually have? Or it's my duty, my deontological obligation to give back to society?
I definitely think so. So in my book, Social Life of Democracy, where I look at Ambedkar's idea of social democracy, it is where I've actually looked at this from that particular context. Because I was really trying to understand Ambedkar's idea of what does it mean to, have a social democracy. When he says democracy is that it's not about a government, but it's also about society being democratic. And so one of the questions I was engaging there with is this question of freedom. Because a lot of people say the equivalence, by the way, of wealth is freedom. What you feel you can do to your wealth is what you think you have a right to do under the name of freedom. So therefore, today it becomes more and more difficult to tell somebody you can't do this, you can't do that. So there are all these questions about freedom. But then one of the arguments I make there is this, that freedom, for me to have freedom, I am dependent on so many others to enable my freedom. Even a simple thing like people say, I want to go on a holiday. There are hundreds of other communities and groups and people enabling that possibility that you can go on a holiday, including the hotel you're staying, the food you're going to get, and so on. So to me, the way I thought made the best sense for me to understand what does it mean to say you're free is only to say that you can only be as free as the lowest person in the society's freedom is. In other words, our comparison to freedom is not to say, oh, that person is driving a Benz, why can't I drive a Benz? But rather our comparison from which the idea of freedom comes is from those who are denied that freedom in your own society. That similar idea, that's a very trusteeship idea, which goes back to Raw. In the sense of what you talk about Rawls or about Gandhi or about or in Ambedkar. To think that one possesses an enormous amount of wealth while at the same time realizing that too many people are deprived of the basic needs of a society, there seems to be obviously there is a problem. Now, it may seem only obvious to some of us. There are many people who don't see it as a problem, who might say, well, that's the way nature is, or that's the way societies are. I've heard so many people say poor are poor because they are lazy, they don't work, or they're drunk, and I can't even believe from, what kind of experience is speaking that from, right? And in fact, today, if you really see the other kind of a problem, which is that a lot of wealth is produced. So the very idea of wealth has changed a lot, right? So earlier you had some measure of labor and wealth being proportion to it. Like I did some amount of work, I made some amount of money. Today, for a large number of people, wealth is what produces wealth. So especially once you make some amount of money, then that money keeps making wealth for you. So without any work, that's this famous thing, right, with all these IT guys, right? How many people I have heard who have said, oh, I'm going to retire when I'm 30. I'll buy a boat. And once you think you've reached the threshold of wealth itself starts to work for you. Then for that wealth to continue to produce the kind of excessive wealth which you get from that needs a complete support of many financial institutions. It needs stable you need governments, you need stable politics, you need stable markets. So many millions of people have to be doing various kinds of work in order to make the money work to earn more money. And to believe that you are completely entitled to it, it's just your work that has produced all this money, is logically false. Right? So one way you might answer to that is to say, well, we pay tax and that's the way we pay back. So the question is then, what tax do you pay? And what does it mean to say you continue to make so much of money while a very large number of the population don't have access to some very basic amenities? So I don't think this is really about politics, whether socialism, communism, capitalism, and so on. It is a lot more to do just with some basic questions of human dignity and the idea of a human society. what is really the question you posed here, what is a society? Do we all really belong to society? Or is it just that we belong to some transactional thing that I'm getting something from this person and that person, and that's how we live our lives? So, and where did these ideas come from? Are these ideas quote unquote natural to humans, or have they been imposed on us through very small groups of very powerful people who have been very rich? So money has done all that part, and I think Gandhi was extremely sensitive to this. He was totally aware of this, and interestingly, so was J.R.D. Tata.